had. Oh, how you do it and you. How you do it and what?
It might be something.
And maybe it's the wiring. Hold on, let me see. I don't know. Hello, hello. It could be me. It don't like me because it's like Sharon, you already.
Because you ain't hearing nothing right now.
It's like Sharon, you already loud. Everybody tell me I make too much noise. So now you got it. That's great. It might be a short in the wiring. Wait a minute, just to let y'all know, somebody. 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2. I think that works now. I don't like speaking in the mic, but I'm going to do this for James. King L. Islam. So I think that the starting point for most people when they're learning about nationality and status is to know what status is and what it is not. Because the status is the biggest problem that our people are facing. You can't compete if you don't have a status. And if you don't have a status, well, what law applies to you? If you don't have a status, color of law was created to apply for those individuals that don't have a status. So when you sit here and you look at all of our people and how they have been victimized in this, on this continent as well as the continents all across the world, is because of them lacking a status, right? I was like, and to be disenfranchised means to not be able to function. Like, think about it. Oh goodness. Think about it like Monopoly. Everybody knows how to play Monopoly, right? You don't know how to play Monopoly? Oh my God. Where are you from again? All right. What about everybody else? Raise your hands who knows how to play Monopoly. I mean, let me tell you, we would war in my family playing Monopoly. We would talk to people for weeks after playing Monopoly because everybody was cheaters in my family. If you land on Park Place, they land on Boardwalk, they steal your property, right? And we would get mad. Well, I got the blues already. You can't take the blues. I done started buying the blues. So we would get mad when somebody else land on the property that we didn't even buy yet, just because they got it. They got to it first. So now that's that crab mentality. I call it the crab mentality syndrome, where we can't show appreciation for other people's rise and want them to, like, I think of black people as the crabs in the barrel, meaning they want us to stay as black people, and they don't want us to come outside of that negative status. Because what is a black person? It's not even it's a person, right? It's a person devoid of any status, meaning they don't have an identity in a society. And based on the Constitution, what does the Constitution call a black person?
Dead in the eyes of law.
Not only dead in the eyes of law, aren't they 2/3 or 3/5 of a person?
Yeah.
13th Amendment.
Wards of the state, right? Why are they wards of the state?
Because they're not.
Because they lack a status. And they lack the even desire to even create one. Why are our people not accepting that they have an issue? When I was
They don't know that they were abandoned when they were born.
There you go. I agree with you.
our people don't know that they were abandoned when they were born. That is true. Explain how they were abandoned when they were born.
Well, they were born. If you were born in a hospital, it's called maternity ward, isn't it?
Yep, you were born in a hospital and it was called a maternity ward.
Right?
Elaborate.
So the person who maintains the ward is the warden.
Ooh,
So when you signed the birth certificate, you agreed you were abandoned.
Islam.
See, the history of hospitals in themselves were places where women can go and leave a child abandoned, no questions asked, no.
I like him.
No.
That is so true.
So
And many women do that. They go have their children in hospitals and abandon them. mean, they weren't even necessarily called midwives. They were called, I forgot what they were called, y'all. I don't even know. Wet nurses. But you had a nanny. I don't even know if it was nanny. I can't remember the name of this, but it was one or two women in the community that would go around and deliver all the children and the families. And we had something called a family Bible. That's what the whole regular Bible is all about. It's a Bible. And a Bible is just a record of your family. That's all it is. A record of your family. And because of social programming, they've taught our people to, and the crazy part about it is Islam. The crazy, you look so familiar. The craziness about it is that our people are at fault because who's sending you to the hospitals? Your mom, your grandma. Who's sending you to the driving facility to get a driver's license? Your mom, your dad. Who's sending you to do any of these things? It is your parents. Because they have been socially brainwashed in these institutions, and they realize that they can't compete, right? They realize they can't compete, that the board of Monopoly, like we were talking, in order to get on the darn board, what you have to do? What you have to do to start the game? You had to actually agree to start the game, right? You had a contract. So in order to get on the board, right, the boardwalk, which is where we are, which is funny. But in order to get on the board, you had to get a piece. You had to get one of those. What did they used to call them? The pieces.
A hat.
What do they call those? What? Why am I like having issues speaking?
I didn't play the game.
But that's crazy because we played this like crazy in school. In my family, we played. We get the little pieces, right? We would get the pieces in order to play. That's the status, right? But some people don't realize that we're all literally playing on that chessboard or that Monopoly board. And at one point, they tried to say that this was one game that was split up into two games. Like, there's so many theories out there about a lot of things, but the point of Monopoly, that was created to show you. And has anybody saw in Facebook where the guys, there's a bunch of old Albions sitting around the table. It's actually a Monopoly board. It went out. A Monopoly board. Yeah. They went on the Monopoly board. Where was I at?
The Albion.
Okay, yes. The Albions were sitting around the Monopoly board. Islam, thank you. They were sitting around the Monopoly board, and underneath the board, guess what was holding it up? Asiatics. Asiatic sons were holding up that Monopoly board while the Albions played it. So that's what they're trying to say. Oh, on this board, this is what you are. You're just holding it up. But it's your estate, Moors. It's all yours. And you know that by all of the training that you go through when you come on this side, where you take the Tuesday classes, because we're going through not only how to complete these tiers on this document that you need a copy of, and can you give that to the guys on the back in the back row? Two guys in the back row. Yeah, you gotta hold that down. You gotta hold it down. So like, we have been disenfranchised to only be the pawns on that board. That's the speaker? Oh, it's the speaker. Islam. I'm not used to mics. Like, but then when it went out, Islam. So the Monopoly board is really how we're living today. We're all landing on people's properties and then having to pay them, right? And then going to jail, right? Get out of jail free card, all that stuff. But I don't want to go kind of off the subject, because the reality is, when the mothers have their children, they have them in these hospitals. They sign the birth certificate, which is what? Has anybody ever read the birth certificate that you fill out the application while you're in the hospital? Has anybody ever read that document? What it says on it? Do you know what it is?
That was a while back.
It was a while back? You haven't used it in a minute? You haven't even looked at it in a minute? Okay. Anybody else? Anybody here? You just had a baby. That's a perfect. Hi, mama. Because there's some stuff you got to do to claim her. Right? So on the birth certificate, it has at the top, if it's Jersey, the state of Jersey. If it's Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So it's a contract.
So if it's Texas, it's all put Texas on.
Texas. Whatever so-called corporate state, right? Where you domicile, that is the jurisdiction that you're under. Automatically through that birth record. Because when the child is born, when you're in a hospital, you fill out, the mother fills out the birth record and the social security application. And she doesn't even realize she's doing that. Even though she does realize she's doing that, and her parents taught her to do that. So when I talk about fix the sin your mom put you in, that's part of that. It's part of the fact that you've given over administrative power as it relates to your child to the state. That's why they can take your child. That's why, when you get public assistance, they make you take the father to court. But then at the same time, now you've contracted with the man. Now the man's under the contract, y'all. He's under the contract to provide services or whatever support for that child. It's a contract. That's why you end up in court for child support. It is that contract that gave the courts the ability to say, yes, you signed this contract. Are you the baby's father? And this is all them leading you into a contract. Islam. It's them leading you into a contract. Because what do you have to submit in order for it to be binding? Any contract. How is it binding? Not necessarily verification, but in order for, okay, signature, acceptance. Signature is the same thing as consent. So think of the birth certificate as the mother consenting to the so-called corporate state under the county's direction to be the administrator for that child and that child's estate, which is more importantly what they're after. The estate, which is what that document represents.
It's called a service contract.
A service contract, Islam. And are they providing you any services?
We think they are.
Are they providing any services? What services is the county providing you? I would let them know this one. Has anybody got a positive answer for that? What is the county providing you with?
No hospital bill.
No hospital bill. Who don't get a hospital bill when they come out of the hospital after they have a baby?
There's a way to pay off your bill.
There is a way to pay off the bill. You got to look at that ens legis, that fictitious entity that was established. Because when you left the hospital, y'all got to hold these papers down. Y'all got to hold them down. Put your cell phones on. So when you do the every time I stop, I get misdirected. The ens legis. So when you fill out the birth certificate and the social security application in the hospital, they create and establish an estate for your child in all caps. So when you get the birth record and when you get the social security card in the mail, when you get the birth certificate in the mail, you get a birth certificate and a social security card with your child's name in all caps. And there's certain things you're supposed to do that nobody knows because nobody was taught it. To claim your child. Because you just gave your child up, even though you are the parent. That's a legal term, because you were technically the mother and the father, right? Can we validate? Let me mess with y'all for a second. Can we validate fatherhood? Is there a way to validate that? To prove it? Does the paternity test prove paternity? I mean, can it be ever 100%, right? Who are they testing? They ain't testing you, sons. Because they have to test mitochondrial DNA. That's from your mother. So when we talk about, I don't want to go on this topic because I don't want you sons to start looking at me funny. Because you need some exorcisms to take place in order for you to understand where life starts and where it ends. But where it can't begin at all. Right? Because no no government can exist without women. Even though they try, right? So I have a very, very funny and a very, very intentionally shocking class called Fix the Sin Your Mom Put You In. Because we don't realize mom put us in sin. She raised us and she gave us up at the same time. And if you read the Bible and you read it with the right pretext and the right context, you'll realize the fight that we really are in. And I don't like to go to the Bible because I like to talk factually, not off the hip, which is what I'm doing right now with you in certain aspects of it. But everything that I say can be validated, or I wouldn't say it. I like to know what I'm talking about. So when we talk about mitochondrial DNA, that comes from your mother. You can't test a father, even though they do. And they act like they're testing, and there's some validity in those tests. But that contract is what matters. There's a Moor that contacted me, and she don't have nobody on the birth certificate as it relates to the father. That's a contract. That's the first contract. That's the trust indentured. Meaning that mother and that father, along with the help of the state, is going to take care of that child. However, it needs to happen. So they could take your child from you. They could force the father to pay child support. But again, this is all contractual. Meaning you have to agree. Everything is a contract. And I don't know if people are well aware of just how much they're contracting by just the words that you speak. So always speak honorably and always speak truthfully, because there are some things that people missed before when we started, because we actually told people to write on the back of their outline, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, vertically. No, horizontally. And then underneath that, you're going to put the rest. So put love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So what's the opposite of love? Hate. What's the opposite of truth? Lies. What's the opposite of peace? War. What's the opposite of freedom? Slavery. And what's the opposite of justice? Corruption and justice. Correct. So we got to always be mindful of when we're lying, when we're filled with hate, when we're glorying, whether it's against a spouse or a consort or family, we're in our lower tier. We're supposed to be on peace. We're supposed to be on truth and love and freedom and justice. That's where we're supposed to be. That's where we're supposed to be. But Prophet Noble Ali said he came to teach us what? He came to teach us how to love instead of hate. And doesn't it make sense that our communities for which we domicile is a reflection of hate? Because do you know your neighbor? Do you like your neighbor? That's the question. Do y'all know your neighbors? No? You know them by name?
No.
Okay, so you don't know your neighbor then, do you?
Well, I've been living
You just
there
lied
for
to me.
about 7 years. We don't talk that much, but we always wave.
Okay. So you know your neighbor, okay. Right. So this is partly, right? So when we talk about know, right? Do you know their name? That's crazy. I probably wouldn't know my neighbor's name either. So I'm like, I don't know him. I just say hi when I'm coming and going, but that's about it. It ain't me knowing my neighbors, right? Don't you think we should get into community and start knowing each other? Because has anybody read the Holy Circle 7 Quran? Has anybody read that book? You read it? Anybody else read it? What y'all be doing with y'all time? Y'all be on Amazon Prime. Y'all be on Hulu and Netflix. Okay, you can't work all day. How many hours you work a day?
21.
21. It went out again. Oh, wait a minute. It's me. It's me. 21 hours a day? How many hours you sleep?
I don't sleep sometimes.
Are you serious?
Very free.
Why do you work so much? Is it necessary, or are you a workaholic?
I don't like to work.
What?
I have to work.
Oh, well, yeah. For right now.
You got contracts?
Right now.
To work, you have to have a contract with them.
That's true, because to work is a contract. Everything's a contract.
Are you the lien holder?
The lien holder.
Right.
Holder in due course?
21 hours. That's a lot of
Hold your
hours.
title.
You gotta stop working 21 hours. I'm telling John Wood, I'm telling you something.
He already knows.
I'm like, you better come down here and stop your dad from working himself to death.
You know I'm in Alabama, right?
No.
Atlanta, California.
Well, why would I think you in Alabama or California? Because you here with me right now. I'm telling y'all, I be trying to tell y'all, people be on the bottom tier so quickly. See how quickly he went to the bottom tier? Talk about he in Alabama. You're not in Alabama. You're not even in New Jersey. Where are you? Where are we at, y'all? We're not even in Pennsylvania. Because where do those entities exist? Okay. When something is established, what does that mean? What does it mean to be established? Huh? To be established means to be created, right? Okay. So, can you see Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, New Jersey? Can you actually see these things? Can you touch them, taste them, feel them? Do they actually exist? Outside of you just being able to write it down, spell it out, do they exist? Where do they exist? On paper. It is a fictitious entity. Just like your N's Leggins, which is your all caps name. It's a fictitious entity. Because you are what? What are you? If you answer this wrong, I swear. What are you? A living being. Okay. Further qualify that. So you're a living being. What does that mean then? Okay. So you're a living being. How do you classify this living being?
As a man.
Okay. So you're a living being as a man. How do you further classify that? Energy? Let's see. So this is the way I would identify myself if I want to be taken seriously. I am YeSharon Akasha L. Rose Bay, Moorish American National. Living being, womb man, stargate, manifester, empress. You see that, right? You got to qualify the things that you say, right? So it's okay to just say I'm a living being, because sometimes when you in those tribunals and they try to trip you up, right? They try to say, what's your name? So here's the question. What is your name? You don't got a name? Okay.
Got appellation.
You got an appellation. What is that?
John Elbay.
John Elbay. Okay. Where you live at? Where y'all live?
I live in my body.
You live in your body? I don't understand that question. I don't understand that answer, because when I ask you that question, I'm looking for you to tell me where you reside. Where do you reside?
I don't reside anywhere.
Why not?
I'm not a resident.
What's a resident?
A resident is someone that lives in some area that they call.
I'm gonna tell you what a resident is. The root word, which is resident. R-E-S. What does res mean? Off the top of your head. Oh, res. Oh, res.
She's saying a res.
A resident. It's a thing. You see how simple that was? A thing. Are you a thing? Because you just said you was what?
I didn't say I was a resident.
You just said you was a living being, right? So you can't be a living being, then be a resident at the same time, right? So realize they're tricking you to get you to consent to what? A contract, right? Because verbal is an expressed contract. An expressed contract, meaning you've expressed your desire, it has been agreed, right? It's a verbal contract, something you express by words. physical contracts, a written contract, right? That nobody ever reads, but everybody is compelled to that contract, right? So when you're in those tribunals, I'll ask you your name, your resident, right? State your name for the record.
I didn't give him one.
So what would be the way to answer that question? I'm asking you, who are you? What's your name?
You can call me beneficiary.
Beneficiary? Beneficiary of what?
I hold the first.
You'll hold your birth certificate?
Call me the trustee.
Call you the trustee of what? You're the trustee of what? Because I'm asking your name, you're saying you're the trustee.
Of my expression.
What express trust?
L.
Amount of
No.
QL.
It would be my government name.
Very good.
What's your, okay, so I summoned Michael Wood Larson. I summoned him to court. And now you're telling me you're a beneficiary or a trustee. Of what? What would validate that for me to listen to you? How do you validate that? Putting your trust on the record. And when you put your trust on the record, it's going to have written expressions that you are the beneficial owner, the trustee of that estate, right? That's how you do it. You got to put it on the record, y'all. Y'all can't just go into a tribunal, right? And you sit here and they call John Henry Clark, which is your estate, and you say, I'm Michael Bay L. Well, I call John Henry Clark. Got to qualify how you speak when speaking to them, right? Because it's all contract law. So why would they? Okay, you want to talk? I think the geese want to talk on the phone, yo. It's long. So, I wish I had water ice.
You should have got yours first.
I'm just mess. I can't eat and talk at the same time. I be all over the place with it, right?
I can't spit it on it, brother. You might find it refreshing.
Doing what?
Probably sipping on some ice cream.
Yeah. It's really windy up here. But if we was in the corporate near the corporate territory of Pennsylvania, it'd be hot and we wouldn't have this breeze. I can't miss something that don't exist. Right? Because these are all corporations. They started as what type of companies? What type of companies did they start off as? No, they started off as colonies. And those colonies, what does a colony mean? What is a colony? I'm gonna fight you. What's a colony? He said Google it. It's a British company. It sure is. Keep trying to tell y'all these places don't exist. They're corporations with a general assembly of people who came together to create a fictitious entity in order to do business, to do commerce, trust, contract, treaty law, all of these things, y'all. Don't you realize we brought them over here to get it done? Through those British colonies. Uh-oh. Malfunction. Look, I get used to it and then it goes down. I get used to it, y'all, and then it goes down. It's me. I know it's me. I know, right? Because I'm so loud anyway, right? Everybody tells me, Sharon, you so loud. You see, I said Sharon, right? Not YeSharon. Because everybody still calls me that. And I answer to both sometimes. Depends. And you can. Because your mom called you what? She ain't call you that ens legis. She gave you a so-called name in proper English. Right? And when the birth certificate came in the mail, she didn't refute it, she didn't claim it, she didn't put it in trust, she didn't do any of those things. She did not protect you. She gave you away to the state, even though you still lived and dwelled in our house and had to listen to sorry. About the birth certificate? Well, the birth certificate is a trust indentured. That's one thing. Islam. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ashe. The birth certificate is a trust indenture. It is a contract between the state and the mother and the father. It's between those three entities. Because on that document, the mother's name is in all caps, the father's name is in all caps, and so too is the corporation, because they were all fictitious entities. Okay? That's how they're claiming jurisdiction. Because habitually and through history of ignorance, we've been answering to those names. We've been contracting in those names. We have been the surety that secures any transactions that we're doing. So in order for them to operate, these individuals that are your administrators until you claim your estate as well as claim yourself. You gotta claim yourself first before you can claim any estate. So to claim yourself is to say that you are not that fictitious entity, you are a Moroccan American national outside of that entity, and that you have a government. But you can't just say that just to say it. It has to actually be true. And you have to actually validate these things. And our people have been so miseducated, and I'm not going to just say our people, I'm going to say everybody, because when you go out, like, I don't know how many people here have a nationality identification card. I'm not sure how many people here have one, right? Some places you go to, you have no issues using them because that is a proper form of identity. And it is the only form of identity. Because what is a so-called state-issued instrument? What is it? It's a contract. Yes, it absolutely is. But what is it? Has anybody government property? Is it government property? I disagree. It grants jurisdiction. Does it say it on the actual ID? Think about the state-issued IDs, right? They have the name in all caps. They have some other codes on there. They have the residential address of the ens legis, which would be the where it's housed, where it's located, where the debtor is, where it exists, right? So they can find it when it creates all types of debt and don't discharge it. But you haven't been taught how to do any of those things. Which is why we go to the plantation and the job, because we have to pay because we don't know. Right? And we pay through our energy. Because Federal Reserve notes ain't money. We're paying through our work. The work that we're doing. The jobs that we hold. That is modern day slavery. Because you have an estate that they're taking all the credits and leaving you with all the debt. And they're not even claiming it as income. They're claiming it as what? Abandoned lands and gifts. Because we abandoned it and we gifted it. Because Federal Reserve notes don't pay nothing. Does it? Right? And so we've been subject to this for how long? When is enough, right? Oh my goodness, they keep talking to us, y'all. They weren't here earlier. And the sun is high. It's interesting. Oh, they want some popcorn. Oh, he's throwing them popcorn, that's why they're over there. Okay. He's making them come. They gonna walk up and bite somebody. Watch. Anyway, where was I? So if you look at the paper in front of you, it talks about get on the grid tier 1, tier completion outline of lawful documents. Islam. Oh, you don't have one?
No, you were talking about identification.
Identification.
Yes. Saying about
That's my sister.
Oh, okay. Oh, Islam. Welcome.
He's talking about the identification.
Okay, yes, I got it. You want me to go back there? Okay. Okay, you know, y'all gonna have to bear with me because I'm gonna go all over the place.
Okay.
Please redirect me when I do go on my tangents because it's easy to do that. All right. So when we talk about the IDs, right? You got the all caps name, you got the residential address. Those are all locating the entity. It's jurisdictional as well, just like the individual said in the back. It's jurisdictional as well. So it's letting you know what? This entity resides at this location and is under this jurisdiction. It's literally what it's saying. But who would be the person to refute that? The natural living being, because anything that you acquire is yours if you claim it. So there's a lot of individuals telling you that these documents are, or these instruments are not yours. How are they not yours when they have your estate name on it? How is it not yours? You just don't know how to claim it, and you just don't know how to use it, right? And until our nationality identification cards are accepted everywhere, which is what it should be accepted everywhere, because it is the highest form of identity. One identifies you as a living being, the other identifies you as a dead entity. And depending on how you use it, and depending on how you present it, you don't need to present it. You didn't even need to get one. Because at one point, when did the so-called driving contractor privilege, when was that created? When did they start doing the driving licensing and all that? Huh? 1901. Was it 1901? I don't think it went back that far. I don't think so. Somebody Google it. Because I don't think it's been that long. Because there's a lot of people who've never gotten driver's licenses. It has never had an issue. I don't know. I wasn't living when he was. That would make me really old. Yes.
All those cards that you named, or those so-called instruments or ID things, are
They're credit cards, but more importantly, they are. What was I about to say? A driving license is permission to do something. You don't need permission to travel. And unless you are partaking in commercial trade, where you're hauling goods or you're transferring people for hire, meaning getting paid for that service, you don't need a driver's license. Has anybody ever read the transportation code? I mean, you ain't got to read the whole thing because it's unnecessary. Just an introduction. What does it say? You're exempt from the driving license, right? That is so true, because it is a privilege for those individuals who choose to contract to receive one. You don't need one.
So if I have a commercial license.
Right.
So once I have a national ID in hand, do I still need that? Because I know I don't work on car lines. So would I still need my commercial license?
When you say commercial license in regards to driving, that has something to do with driving? You said you work on power lines, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
you
got
work.
like the big bucket trucks that go up and fix the power lines.
Oh, so you got to drive their commercial trucks to do that. They need the license, you don't. And they pushed all the responsibility on you. But it's not necessarily because they wanted you to learn how to operate that vehicle. It's all contractual. It's all to have access to your estate because it's a contract. Because they know how to access our estate. They know how to go and tap into it, and they use the banks and all of that to do it. Other purposes, right. A little louder. I've been all right with her. Yep, UCC 1-308, UCC 1-103 is what he said. You write that down there along with all rights reserved.
I use 207, so I don't know.
207 was the original, it was the original code. They switched it from 207 to 308. They move them around all the time. Islam. Oh, there you go. Without prejudice, that's exactly. Everybody should have one of these stamps. So when you're signing, when you're autographing any of these commercial documents, you're reserving your rights to not be compelled to perform. Because you have a constitutional right to contract, right? And you have a constitutional right that supersedes any corporate contracts that you might engage into. And where does it say in the Constitution where, you was about to say something?
No, I'm telling him that we're about to be.
Because when you think about the Constitution, anything in the so-called state regulations or the state constitutions has to be in harmony with the Constitution. Because the United States Constitution, the Constitution for the United States of America Republic, protected the people, right? And the states were not allowed to create any other duties upon the people that contradicted the Constitution. So they were supposed to match. And if you looked at your due diligence as it relates to the so-called corporate states you domicile here, and you start doing the research, and you start comparing, it's literally the same. It might just be in different locations or different areas, but anything in the state constitution that's not in the Constitution for the United States of America is notwithstanding, meaning you don't have to listen to that because it is a negative law through condition. And when I say through condition, I mean if you consent to be what?
So that makes it, those two words, makes it a conditional
Acceptance. Conditional acceptance. You don't really want to do too many of that. You want to always compel yourself. You want to always, and then this individual has, without prejudice, UCC 1-308 / 1-301. And then I think it's 103. Yeah, so you get that. All you got to do is rewrite that, right? I was like, so you have to and understand that anybody aware of the Uniform Commercial Code. Right. That's what this 1-308, 1-103 is telling you. That you have the right. Your constitutional rights supersede any other so-called agreement. And you can terminate your agreement at any point in time. Because you are the secured party. We are the secure parties under these estates wars, y'all. We got to start operating in our nobility. We have to start knowing what we're talking about. And even though there's a lot of Moors losing Islam, I was so used to you sitting there. You're going to just move all the way back there in the shade. You're just trying to get in the shade. I don't know. Islam. So when we talk about contracts, we got to learn how to sign contracts. Because if you look at any website or any contract, they reserve their rights. At the bottom of every website, scroll all the way down. It says all rights reserved. Every year it's updated. All rights reserved. To not be compelled to perform to something that is not constitutionally set, right? Because you have a right to not enslave yourself. So why is the so-called corporations trying to treat you as slaves? Why are they doing this to our people? Does anybody know that? Because we are conditionally accepting. But go ahead, what was you going to say?
The reason they doing it is to escheat the estate.
To escheat the estate. Elaborate.
They got their hands in our pockets from the date of birth. And as long as they got us thinking that what they providing is for our education and our financial means, they keep robbing.
Islam. They take your credits and leave you with the debt. And you're forced to pay the debt through medications, being compelled to be in one of the facilities while they're running your estate while you're in there. Right? We're doing that. Islam.
It's even deeper than that.
It's way deeper.
Way deeper. We are keeping them alive.
Absolutely.
Through, again, once you understand that we are having a fleshy experience. You'll understand the concept that the flesh is going to die, but your energy does not.
Islam. Never ends.
So because your energy is constantly in motion, it is active and is all around and in abundance, it's the only way that they can stay alive on the planet where all of nature that gives us our energy is killing them.
Islam.
Right? So they essentially, from your birth and from our matriarch, right, which is the woman, black woman, right?
Don't be calling me black.
Not black.
You better go ahead and say something. The Asiatic, the Empress, the Moabitess, the Stargate. There's so many words you could use.
Stargate, understand, like the earth. What is an asset? We are assets to them. An asset is something that gains value or holds it or maintains its value over time. If the earth replenishes, that's why it's in value. All right? Our melanated woman replenishes. That's why it's invaluable. Right? Their fleshy existence. They do not have what we have to continue on.
Islam.
So everything that we produce, every invention that we create, everything that we do benefits them. They have to have it that way in order to exist.
Islam.
So it's much, much deeper than this.
It's
So
so
I think the
deeper.
first thing that you have to realize if you want to identify yourself as a Moor and claim your Moorish nationality is to know that, number one, it is far bigger than you.
Absolutely.
Far bigger
Islam.
than you. Because a lot of people come in here wanting remedy. We all want remedy. You know what I mean? We want whatever's owed to us. Right? However, but if you don't understand the foundational principles of this, right, you're not going to be able to harness those energies
Islam.
at all. Because it's how you interact. That's where your energy is dispersed. Right? And we're all balls of energy and our energy is dispersed. You're here to give it away. We're having this fleshy experience, right?
Islam. You went a little bit on the Hermetic principles as well. You read that book?
A little bit.
The yin and yang, the cause and effect. What you put out there, you're getting back. That's called karma, right? So you got to put a lot of positive energy out there, Morris, because there's so much negativity on the planet. Everybody's hating on us. Seriously. And I want to tell you guys, man, somebody texted me earlier today about a special that they had on the TV. I'm not aware of, there's a Showtime series called Vice. I don't know if you're aware of it. And they're on their third season, on their seventh episode, where they actually mentioned the Moors. They actually mentioned the Moors, the rise of the Moors with Jamal. They mentioned me. I actually had a 15-second skit on there as well. They mentioned, I was geeking. I was like, well, damn. That was last month. Literally last month. And I just saw it. I'm going to send it to y'all. I'm not a superstar. I was so surprised when I saw it. Taj Tariq Bey was in the video. They had some other Moors in the video, but it was a 30-minute segment where they just talked about Rise of the Moors because Moors are operating and claiming their estates back, their land back. Because the only reasons why they have been able to utilize our land is because it's considered public domain. Because we haven't claimed it as a nation. And we've been claiming it individually, and you have every right to claim it individually. Does anybody know what an Indian is? This is not a trick question. This is not a trick question.
From India? India?
This is not a trick question, y'all. What is the meaning of the word Indian? And not based on what Trump talked about in his platform, talking about Indians are in India. No, I'm talking about the root word of Indian. Y'all lucky I didn't bring my Black's Law or my American encyclopedia. They was just too heavy for me to be carrying. And say this again? Indigo. Oh, you bought yours? Oh, shucks. You got a Black's Law. I knew somebody was going to bring one.
I got mine in my truck.
There's a lot, because they're like 50 pounds. And that's just one book. Do y'all remember back in the day when our families used to have all those encyclopedias on the shelf and they used to have libraries? Do y'all remember that?
Yeah.
And never even opened them.
They made our own mason jars and all that.
And now today we gotta buy them on eBay.
And buy from them all through the supermarket.
Exactly, right? So what does the word Indian mean? I'm still waiting for somebody to tell me what Indian means. Y'all won't stop playing with me.
I'm just saying, I just did some studying a little week. And American copper colored.
That's what America means. That's the definition of an American. What, America? Indian is, okay. Why are you giving it to me? I gotta present into definitions? He the only one got wax on? Oh my God, y'all gonna hurt me.
Let me go get mine.
Thank you. Indian means what? The natives of the land. That's all it means, y'all. I know y'all know it. Y'all scared to say it.
But they're not Aboriginal though.
Huh?
Are they Aboriginal?
Native. Okay, now we're going to qualify words. A native is what?
One born under bondage.
Say it again.
One born in bondage.
Right. A native is one born in bondage? How long ago, how far back did you get that definition? Because native is short for nate, right? Nativity, which is where you come from. Native, which is where you come from. So if you are native, that means you come from. And an Indian means, well, I wish I had the definition so I ain't flying off the hip. But, you know, I thought y'all was where I was at, or at least somewhere where I was
Indian
at.
is a native of India.
A native of India? Okay. So a native, an Indian, is an indigenous individual of the land that you inhabit, because there's Indians everywhere. Meaning they're just natives. They're not that. Okay? That was a construct to get you to this teacher land, babies. There was no such thing as those Indians and those cowboys in Indian movies. Have y'all watched that movie with Idris Elba, where he's a cowboy and the other guy, I don't know his name? No.
The harder they fall.
Yes, the harder they fall. That depicted our past the best, right?
I thought the Django did.
The Django was a good one too, but the harder they fall was just showing you just our people back then, how they were fighting each other as cowboys in those, and how the Albions, when they were coming over in their colonies, they had their own areas. Remember this, y'all. We were not in the same areas they were in. We were segregated. And that was because of culture, not necessarily because we hated them. They came here to provide services. Has anybody read this civil general orders letter from the Pope? And yeah, the Pope. Anybody read that? You almost stop playing with me.
To President Obama.
To President Obama, Islam wars. What did he say? What did he say in the document? And he was talking to you, Americans. And I'm only saying that because you're copper color, because American is the modern term for a Nexum. That's where America came from. We got to learn etymology, y'all, so you don't get slaved to these corporate definitions of words, because that's not what they mean. It's called, what do they call that when they mess up the terminologies? What is it? Why are you raising your hand? Semantic? It's sematics. It's something called sematics where they change the meaning of words. Semantics, right? Semantics. Because when you sit here, you think about Black's Law Dictionary while we go to the 4th edition or previous to the 4th edition if you can get it. But they're all available online PDF. Just know that. And there's one online on the government website, which is the 4th edition, and as well as the Louviers, because you need to look at multiple references. Because as time goes on, language changes. No, it doesn't. Language never changes because it's rooted and based in etymology, the study of words. So, and most of these words are Latin words. Your true verbal dialect, your true language, right? They took that from us. They gave us English, but is English a language? Why is English not a language? It's made by the Albions. They didn't make English, they made English. But we're saying there's nothing that came from them. It came from you and your ancestors. English is a dialect. It's not a language, because what follows with language? Culture, right? Culture, language, nationality, all these things follow each other. What to do? I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna let it go. Maybe somebody else needs it more than I do. Business. Okay, every time that happens, I get redirected. You know that. So where was I at? Where was I at, Mama? Because she be on it. Where was I at? Oh, look at that. It's nice outside. Yeah, it's a dialect. It's not a language, right? And they gave it to us because we were what? We were identified as what? So they can't let us keep talking our own language, right? Because we do 5 languages. Do you know what 5 languages we do? I don't know it either. I just know one of them was Latin. French was another. These are all of our languages, because we are the original inhabitants of all of the lands. Islam. So we need to realize that, and we need to stand on that. And we don't need to be fighting each other about being right. We're supposed to be uniting. There's not supposed to be all of these different Moorish organizations, which is okay, but we're supposed to all be coming together. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and us claiming our own estates, and us getting back control over our lands. Because the Civil Orders letters, has anybody read that? The General Civil Orders, there's 2 of them. One from 2014. Has anybody read it? The Pope, do y'all remember when the Pope came here? Because he sent that notification out before he came here. And in that notification, what did you read from it? Did you hear anything? Do we have another speaker? James, wherever you ran off to? Where James at? Did he leave us? He left? Okay. So in the General Civil Order letter, does anybody want to doubt what it said?
I first express telling all the marshals, different corporate entities, their purpose of being over here.
Yeah. They told you they were here to provide stipulated services to the American people.
Right.
So they're here doing that, and that's the whole purpose of the colonies, right? And the reason, realize the original British colonies came here to find gold. They didn't come here to set up shop, right? But because they couldn't find the gold here, the Queen was finding it down the south. But the British colonies, they couldn't find gold, so they ended up creating these tobacco companies, right? They're called colonies. They needed individuals to work them. That's where the Albions came from. They came over here, the modern Europeans. Another stream of money for them, because, I mean, shucks, they chartered. What is a charter? Does anybody know what a charter is? That's the basic of what it is, right? Permission. So when the Queen wants to come over here and do business, right, she puts a charter out. All right, I'm gonna give you a charter, and the charter be for whatever the name of it is, Virginia Company, because they were all companies, the Virginia Colony. If you did your real research in terms of the original inhabitants of those colonies and where they came from, and one of the books, that's 2 of the books, 3 of the books that are really good, is White Cargo. Everybody read White Cargo? I'm gonna beat y'all. Damn, I gotta do a book club too? Do I get a break?
No.
Seriously? Everybody says that. That's crazy. One woman said, I was like, I'm not Alexa. And she said, yes, you are. I was like, no, I'm not, because I'm YeSharon. You see how quickly people want to denationalize and make you something that you're not? You have to be diligent on being yourself and making everybody else treat you the way you want to be treated, right? And call you what you want to be called. So there's a book called White Cargo. There's another one called Colonies for Sale. There's another one called We Were White and We Were Slaves. They ain't teaching you this in high school. These are books, all that I've read. And it'll give you the truth as it relates to who were the original inhabitants of those colonies and those companies. Because they were not you. You were living in your own areas doing your own thing. originally came here as indentured. I wouldn't necessarily call them slaves because
No, they call it
indentured servants. They came here under contract to work in those companies. So I'm not going to sit here and call them slaves, even though they were treated horribly by their own people in those plantations as well as our people. Because who were the original Britons? They were called what? They used to. What was the nickname for the Britons? They were called blackamoors. They were called brutish Moors, right? So when you watch those Renaissance movies, that like what's that one that everybody likes to watch? What's that popular one? What's it called? Are y'all serious? Why is everybody having brain farts? Games of Thrones. Movies like that. They are. I've never watched it either because I hate those period movies because they just don't seem right.
They don't got no brothers in it.
Of course, because they're playing you, because you don't want to play yourself. Huh?
They had a couple spots.
Say again, I can't hear you, baby.
They took over, all of their, they had no fires, like they took over abandoned castles and things like that. Like the time they did, we had already moved on.
Yeah.
That's why.
We did a lot of migrations. We didn't stay in one place all the time. We move out when we need to. We're the navigators of the seas as well as the lands. We move based on vegetation. We move based on just going to go meet some, go see our people for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. We just live very, very free. And there's so many individuals out there that do the real work as it relates to the history. I don't know if you've all heard of Fictitious. He has great curriculum on the truth about the history aspect of what happened. He's one among many individuals, as well as Ty Street Bay, who talks about he just gives it to you no chaser, right? And sometimes, I'm sorry, Asir to the tears. That's where I did a lot of my research, whereas though they're telling you where England really is and where it's not. It's not across the sea, it's here. It's a lot of stuff, y'all, because they flipped everything upside down on this either 180 access, I think it is. And they didn't teach us anything. But who has the responsibility to teach the people? Of course. Why would we expect our enemy, because that's what they've chosen to be, to teach us the truth? We can't have that expectation. We should have never had that expectation. We should be teaching our own people. We should be educating our own children in our own schools. And we need to come together to do those things, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so funny because a lot of our people feel as though it makes sense to walk into a dirty house. Right? Let's think about a dirty house. The schooling system, the law enforcement system, the court system. It's a dirty house. It's a dirty house because of what it was founded on. What was the purpose of it? Its mission. It doesn't change just because now there's Asiatics there. The mission is still the same. Now you got your own people doing the same thing to you. Right? It's our job to teach our children. It's our job to come together. Now, there's something called the rights of the indigenous people. Everybody read the United Nations Rights of the Indigenous? You had the book? Islam. It's an actual constitution of how many nations belong to that organization? How many nations? Is the United States of America one? Come on, y'all. I'm going somewhere with this. Because we got the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child, the United States Declarations on Human Rights, and then you got the United States Declaration of the Indigenous Population or Indigenous Peoples. What does the word indigenous mean? What does it mean? Indigenous. To be indigenous of the land. You kind of talked about it earlier. It's just another word. The aboriginal. Only some people don't like aboriginal. Original. Some people think aboriginal, when you think about it etymologically, is away from the original. So aboriginal means to be away from the original. So it makes sense to just say, okay, we'll just say original. Or indigenous. Or how about more? You ain't got to go all through all that because your status is more. Your nationality is more. Somebody said the Moors are extinct. They don't exist anymore. How false is that? And explain why that's false. Thank you. Thank you. There's no such thing as it doesn't exist anymore. You just ain't operating in that. There you go. They refuse to operate with status because they're scared to get their privileges taken away from them. They're scared to get their things taken away from them. They're scared to go to jail. They're scared of a lot of things. Right? Our people live in fear. What does fear mean? Yeah. False education appearing to be real. So you're fearing something that never existed, can never exist, but yet you fear it. That's called insanity. To fear something that cannot, may not ever happen, but yet you have a fear of it. So you have a fear of drowning, right? Let's give an example. You have a fear of drowning, so you never get in the water. You're scared to get in the water. Does that make sense? That means you're dirty. You're scared to get in the water. You're never going to be clean. So we gotta watch how we allow these fears of ours to destabilize us and to keep us in a passive obedience, or as Deroy would say, I can't say her name, she's a doctor, psychologist, and she said cognitive dissonance. That's what does that mean? Because it's been a minute since I've read up on her as it relates to that. But it means something very profound. Look it up in your phones and tell me what it means. Cognitive. Thank you. Because it's a psychological issue, right? Where right. So you don't believe it. Right. You reject the truth when given to you because of wherever the heck your mental is, right? And that's why I always say we live amongst the walking dead, right? Because they're literally the walking dead. That's why they even bought the movie out or TV show out, The Walking Dead. They mock us every chance they get. Because you're walking and you're talking, but you're dead. And when we say you're dead in the eyes of law. You don't exist, which is why the code of law has existed, which is why the policy of forces can come and arrest you and don't do anything as it relates to that Constitution because you're not a party to that. And we don't realize or recognize or appreciate the fact that it's modern day Crowism, it's modern day Christian black codes, it's modern day slavery that we've been conditionally accepting because of our ignorance and our fear, false information appearing to be real, and our lack of knowledge, and our lack of unity, but more importantly, our lack of love for one another. Which is why this stuff exists, right? So, the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Indigenous. Nobody's read that, right? That's fine. What does it say in that book or that Constitution?
Like you said, it's a lot. It says a whole lot. I have it right here.
Islam. It tells you how much power you have. Just like the Constitution tells you how much power you have, just like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship tells you how much power you have. But if you don't ever read it, and you don't ever start operating in that, do you have any power?
No.
You can't have power if you don't know it exists, right? And you can't put it into motion until you know, right? Knowing is the half the battle. So now that I know that I have a problem, so now I can fix it, right? Here we go again. I know, it's like, yo, it's sitting in the sun. Yeah, you probably should have put them under the
Right.
It's long. So knowing that the United Nations Declarations of the Rights of the Indigenous, it tells you everything that we're talking about today. So when you go to a policy enforcer and they tell you, oh, that doesn't exist. Who is here to sit there and tell you what exists and what doesn't? He's an agent. He's an indentured servant. He ain't stopped being an indentured servant. They ain't stopped having that contract on their heads. We just stopped realizing that they work for us as opposed to the other way. Oh, thank you. The other way around. Right? Because they're under contract. And the contract that they're under is what? Do y'all know the contract that they're under? Who?
Trust or abstract trust?
The stuff that that's a contract. That is a contract, but that is not what I'm referring to. The Sesame Trust. I'm referring to the Constitution for the United States of America, which gave them their status. Because when they came over here, they didn't have a status. They had to work those plantations in order to get off of those plantations, where so they would be considered a free man after they were finished their contract, right, of indentured servitude. But the book that you want to read that is going to give you a lot of that information and that insight is We Were White and We Were Slaves in White Cargo. These are two very, very good books. They tell you what happened. They tell you where the word kidnapping comes from. Because they used to kidnap individuals over there in Great Britain. They used to kidnap them and force them on those slave ships, those colony ships, to work the plantations when they came over here. Does anybody know who was one of the first colonies that came over? British colonies. Does anybody know? Just one. One of the first one? I'm gonna get them up here.
You talking about the first successful colony in Americas?
Huh?
You talking about the first?
I'm just asking you to give me one. Jamestown. Who? Who? Hello? Oh my God, do y'all not know the original 13 colonies? Are y'all serious right now? Great Britain. Yeah, which one? I mean, it's one glaring one. Georgia, yes. What else? Oh, thank you. Virginia is the worst one. Everybody tells me all types of stuff about Virginia. I'm like, yo, y'all just gotta operate. Delaware. Yeah. These were the original colonies. So here's the question. What states belong to the Republic and what states belong to the incorporated entity? Which ones? Which ones are the original states?
Which states?
Which ones are the original? The original 13, y'all. Do y'all remember what the original so-called United States continental flag looked like? The circles with the 13 colonies. So what's up with this banner with the 50? They be just changing stuff right in front of you. You don't see it. Right? It's a commerce flag. It's a contract. What contract is it under? Constitution, right? So why aren't we holding them to these constitutions? And this is how we can get our land back. But we got to do it as a unified front, Boys. We got to come together. And that's not just this government. That's all of the governments, those Moorish governments that are out there. We got to come together under the Moroccan Empire, right? Because the land is yours, but right now it's under public domain because we have done what? What have we done to make it part of public domain? We've abandoned it. How do we abandon it? Huh? Not claiming it? Well, how can you claim land? What do you got to do first before you can claim land? Claim yourself. Islam. So that's what we're doing. That's what this government, the Moorish National Republic, federal government, Northeast and Mexican territories and dominions, is a long name, I know. I say it so fast. I even abbreviate it sometimes. Because we completed our articles of organization back in 2021, and we sent it to be apostilled so it will be on the public record. So they know that this is a sovereign, unincorporated government. For the people, by the people. Because there's only one people here that can form a government. Everybody else forms incorporated entities that are subject to what? The government. Right? So this is why they hate on us so much. This is why they victimize us so much, because they don't want to go back into what it is that they were originally supposed to be doing. Providing stipulated services based on contracts. And the contracts had to be based on the Constitution of the United States of America, right? And who are the parties to the Constitution? Let's see if you answer this one right. who's the original inhabitants of those original colonies? Because we like to think that they were all Albions, but the Albions were working on them. They were just working as indentured servants on them, but they didn't own them. Benjamin Banneker Bay. That's one. John Henson. Who were the original freaking presidents of the continental United States of America? Because they were not Asian. They were not Albion. It was all Asiatics. And what happened? Why did all of a sudden get whitewashed? How did they do that? What happened that transferred everything? How did they do that? Because a lot of us think we just walked away from our own stuff. Didn't we get forced away under pain of death? Yeah. We didn't just walk away. It was a fight. It was called the Civil War. Threat, duress, coercion is our question. So the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Indigenous is telling you that you have the power to create your government. You have the power to self-autonomy. You have the right to a nationality. You have the right to your persons, your property, your effects. You have a right to do exactly what we're doing today. And nobody can tell you that you don't have that right. But understand, we're dealing with 250 years of ignorance that our people have been bestowing upon the world. Not to mention a whole bunch of brothers, sisters, cousins, mothers, grandparents who are fighting against us out of fear. You can't be mad at them. You can't hate them. We're just going to show them by doing. That's it. Because the law is on our side. Righteousness is on our side. And if you read it, it tells you. There's a statute. There's a United States code that talks about Indians, which is why I brought it up earlier. It is public statutes 733, subsection 194. Okay. 4 Stat 733, subsection 194. And I posted it on Facebook earlier today. You didn't see it earlier today? I'm going to read it because I think you need to know it. Because we have so much power on our side. Not to mention, a lot of international news has been very, very interesting. Has anybody read what King Charles said on behalf of his mother, Queen Elizabeth? I'll go there in a minute. Let me go find that statue. I'll wait. Where's that? I just posted it, so it's not far. Here it is. Section 22. I'm going to read section 22. I know that's right. She want to be heard. And be it further enacted that in all trials about the right of property in which an Indian, you know y'all the Indians, right? Are we clear on that? Are we really clear on that? Because that's just a classification of the Moors, right? May be a party on one side and a white person on the other. The burden of proof shall rest upon the white person whenever the Indian shall make out a presumption of title in himself from the fact of previous possession or ownership. Okay. Why can you write a title and they can write a deed? So what is a deed? What's a deed? A deed is... give me a little bit more. What is a deed? Is interest in a property. A deed is interest in a property. What does that mean? Under secured transactions, this is a class that we have on Moors to Moors. I just want y'all to know that. We wrap up in a week, but the classes are viewable on Moors to Moors with the curriculum and everything. Because you need to know what a secure transaction is. You need to know what the uniform commercial codes are. But more importantly, you need to know what I just asked that y'all didn't answer yet. forgot what I said. What is a deed? You said it was a debt. It was a security interest, right? So it's a security interest in property. But is that title? That's a security interest in property. How do they get a security interest in property? Because they can't claim the land, but they have a security on the fixture filing on top of the situated on the property.
From us not responding to it.
Wait a minute, there's a lot of Moors all over the continent that are sending in their affidavit of facts, their titles. They're doing it as Moorish American nationals and going through a lot of resistance from these individuals